Joining us on the Heister Automotive Group hotline is the head men's basketball coach, Duke Jon Scheyer. Has it like sunk in yet? It's not assistant. It's not any of that's a coach in waiting. Head coach.
That part is sunk in for the most part. It's look, I'd be lying to you if I didn't say it hits me, in waves at different times. But that part of it, I think I'm getting more and more used to by the day.
Okay.
Duke basketball coach Jon Scheyer joining us here on the OG on the Heister Automotive Group hotline. That's Joe Ovies. I'm Joe Giglio. All right, I got a couple of basic basketball questions for you before we get into some other nonsense. Are you going to start all of your 7-footers and Reeves? Can you go super big for me
That's
at some point?
Yeah, maybe you should be on the staff because that idea hasn't come up yet.
Not
Well,
yet.
maybe you shouldn't be on the staff because that idea hasn't come up yet either. So, but no, I haven't thought about that one yet.
All right. Give people an idea because normally Duke, we know you're going to have a new roster and you have Jeremy Roach back, which is great for you guys. But you did add a lot of grad transfers this year. A lot of them are smart too. I don't know if you're only allowed to add Ivy League guys and or people from the Chicagoland area. But give people an idea first with the older guys that you've added and maybe some of the roles that they'll play.
Yeah, well, for us, it's you want to have great talent on a roster, of course, but it's also about blending people and roles and strengths and weaknesses. And for us, having 7 freshmen, losing 8 of our 10 scholarship guys from last year. Jeremy Roach is our only player returning with game experience towards the end. Jalen Blakes is our other player, and Jalen doesn't necessarily have that in-game experience, but him coming back is huge. But for us, we really identified Ryan Young very quickly, and he's been terrific for us. Jacob Grandison from Illinois, he was our last addition. Jacob has been a starter in Illinois for 2 years. He's played in the Big Tens. Ryan, same thing. And we had Max Johns and Kel Catchings. And, both of them, Max and Kel have been a part of big-time winning programs at Harvard and Princeton. They bring great maturity, and they've been an amazing addition for what we've done and, helping to build our culture.
And of course, when you're at Duke and you have the number 1 recruiting class, Derek Lively, Dariq Whitehead, those 2 guys I think are at the top of the list. But what do you kind of expect from those young guys? And is it a Paolo situation? I hate to do this to the kids, but is it a Tatum situation? Is it a Zion situation? What are we looking at with these 2 superstars that you brought in?
The funny part is with all those guys that you just named, they were really developing in this time. We knew, man, some of those guys were really special, but until you do it in a game, that's just a different level. And I know you mentioned Derek and Dariq. Both of them have great belief in themselves as players, and they also expect to win when they're on the floor. And the biggest thing that I want to see from the both of them, from the other freshmen that we have, is incredible growth and development throughout this year, particularly the beginning stages. We have a really difficult schedule, but it's also exciting at the same time. Some of the teams we get to play and their growth from where they started June 27th versus now, in November versus January, February, March. Want to see amazing growth every step of the way.
Jon Scheyer joining us, head basketball coach, Duke, as the season, they got, exhibitions on Wednesday. Season starts up next week. I am curious, with college basketball, every start of college basketball, there's a constant conversation about the evolution of the college game. And people focus on things like the age limit. But now there's been talk about expanding the NCAA tournament. What does that do to the ACC tournament? You're part of a younger group that now has a say. How do you view yourself? Look, when Coach K wanted to talk about stuff, he would. How do you view yourself now at a high-profile job that has influence when you want to say something about the direction of college basketball or the direction of the ACC? How do you handle that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it starts with listening to others who have been around the game for a longer period of time. Like even though I'm the head coach at Duke, I'm always going to be learning. Like I know what I don't know. Now, with that said, I have great passion for the future of our game, great passion for the ACC, and I think I have a unique perspective having played in the tournament, having played in the ACC, having played at Duke, and now being an assistant coach, now head coach is my 10th year. So for me, it's really following my instincts, going off a feel. When I believe in something, I'll speak out. And when I'm not sure, I want to get as much information as possible and make sure I'm knowledgeable about anything that I discuss or bring up. But I don't think that my way is the only way. I think there's a lot of conversations that need to be had right now because it's an important time in our game. Like there is a lot of change, and it's important that we put things out there and figure out the best direction to head.
Well, the conversation probably changes on the recruiting trail now too. When you started out coaching 10 years ago versus what's going on now with NIL, right? So what?
Hearty chuckle.
So what is that conversation now when you walk into a recruit's house and with NIL? I know you brought on a general manager to the Duke basketball program to kind of help navigate these worlds, but when you're actually selling Duke, playing at Cameron, the championships, everything else, I mean, I know that sells, but there's also a money component to this now. So how does that conversation go?
Well, those things, look, it all goes hand in hand. And no matter what, there's a lot of differences from 10 years ago. And there's the thing that's the same, though, is it's still building relationships. Like it has to be about trust and, belief. And no matter what, no matter anybody's intentions for NIL, like nobody's making as much as Paulo Banchero is making this year in the NBA. That's where you want to get to. That's where every one of our recruits wants to get to. And you only get one chance to do this. And for me, it's really not about selling anything. This is what I believe in. I made this choice at that time. So for me, it's about sharing my passion for Duke, sharing my passion for that individual, and obviously taking every opportunity that they have to be able to maximize off of NIL as soon as possible. That's been a positive thing. I haven't with our guys, that it hasn't been anything other than positive. And we need to make sure we stay adaptable. As couldn't have told you a year ago this would be the position we're in, or this is what's happening. I'm sure a year from now there'll be some new things that we have to continue to adjust to then.
Duke basketball coach Jon Scheyer joining us here on the OG. And I would imagine, John, the hardest challenge for you this year is and going forward is figuring out how to be you. How do you not be Mike? How do you not be Coach K? And how do you do that in a successful way? What have some of your conversations been like, maybe with your dad or with someone else who you really lean on to try to form your own identity as a coach?
No, I appreciate the question. I think it's probably the most important thing for me when I said yes to this job. And the important thing, I've done a lot of work behind the scenes for years, figuring out who I am as a person before even a coach. And then obviously figuring out who I was going to be as a head coach. I didn't know that I would be a head coach here, but I prepared with, a couple of people I've grown really close to off the court, where we dove into, all right, John, what are your strengths as a coach? What are your blind spots? And then how do you surround yourself with people that support you, help cover up and help build your strengths and help cover your blind spots? And for me, I think I have a clear view of that. The biggest thing is just following your instincts. You can't let, all right, the moment of a game or of course I want to win. There's great competitors out there. I would like to think that I'm as good of a competitor as anybody, but you have to make the decisions that's in your heart and your instincts. Otherwise, if you're not authentic, if you're not yourself, then forget about it. And I've had a lot of conversations with Coach K. I think our players would tell you, not trying to be anybody other than me. And we'll see if you guys see that this year as well. All right, so that's the next step.
Well, I'll see if what was the breathing technique you talked about in your
Wim
press
Hof.
conference?
If you see me on the sidelines doing that, then it's probably not a good sign. But it's Maybe before or after games, I'll do it though.
Okay. I the way I Googled that while I was sitting in the press room when I'm like, what is this? Oh, you know what? I'm gonna have to try that.
Have you tried it yet?
I haven't tried it yet, but with a 14-year-old and navigating high school and all the new stuff I got to deal with when he asks me questions, I might need those breathing techniques, man. I really might need those. I was thinking, Giglio asked the Coach K question. I got to imagine that Coach K is probably sending you dog memes at this point, right? He's got to be bored. At this point in the season, he's got to be so bored that you wake up and there's a couple of TikToks of like, look at this cute puppy. That's totally what Coach K is doing, right?
I don't know if people realize how busy Coach K is right now. He's traveling. He's got a lot of engagements, and even with that, though, we find time. I mean, we're connected all the time. I mean, I'm talking to him constantly and staying in touch and picking his brain. But he's busy, and I'm sure he's busy with the dog too. By the way, I'm sure he's busy with his dog. But yeah, he's got a lot going on.
All right, let's get back to John right there. Where are you right now?
If you're watching this on YouTube or WRAL.
This is your office.
This is my office right now.
Give us a quick scan, because this would be the lead to most people's story who come visit you, right?
This is my office right here. Yeah, not bad, right?
Look around. Got nothing. Unless that's the depth chart behind you that you like slid over so nobody could see it.
There's so we actually meet in here from time to time. So some of our guys left some papers out. I got to talk to them about it, but
there's not a thing there. So either you're like super like, hey, I'm never spending any time in my office, or you're potentially a serial killer. So I'm just gonna go with you're just not gonna spend any time in that office. How's about that?
I'm in here and I'm not a serial killer, obviously, but I'm in here often. Yeah, I'm in here a lot.
There's not. I think it's spotless, man. Let's see your desk. Is there anything on the desk?
I was gonna say because
I got a lot of stuff over there. Yeah, I actually have. I got sent. AJ Griffin was nice enough to.
Get a jersey.
Yeah, so I got
nice.
Sweet. Jersey,
nice.
Right? Pretty cool thing.
Nice.
So.
All right, good. Don't make me worry about you from the jump here, man.
I was gonna say because as you can see, my cubicle
Yeah,
space. Yeah, I mean, come on, I got Christmas lights, lava lamps, bobbleheads, you name it. I got the whole thing going on here. Jon Scheyer, Duke basketball coach, joining us here on the OG. We appreciate the time as always. Best of luck to the start of the season, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Fellas, thanks so much. See you soon.